It's very hot, very warm, humid. It's Thursday afternoon, a perfect time for day drinking with Peter and Daniel. I'm Peter Rowe with the San Diego Union-Tribune and with Pacific Magazine.
And I'm Daniel Wheaton from the San Diego Union-Tribune and Pacific Magazine as well. And we're continuing kind of our 30th Street tour of North Park, going to all of the places where you can get amazing beer. And we're at a place where not only you could have a pint or a half pint of something delicious, but also get what you need to brew at home. We're at Home Brewing Company, and of course we like to have guests, so why don't we introduce our guest?
Hi, I'm George Thornton, owner of Home Brewing Co. Is that good?
Yeah.
That
awesome.
sounds great. Yeah, you're a natural.
Sure.
So you're the owner of this place, but are you also the or a brewer?
I'd call myself a brewer.
A brewer.
Jacob Bauk is our head brewer.
Okay.
And he took over operations from Sean Manriquez, who took over operations from myself. So 3 years ago I was doing all the brewing, and then passed that off about 2 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So this location here, I've always thought it must be a pretty good location, right? You're close to that beer corridor at 30th. Yeah. Do you get walk-ins?
We get a good amount of foot traffic. That should be improving over the next month or so, because we should have a patio
Awesome.
coming soon. So I don't know if that keeps this evergreen for you, but
Okay.
yeah, next 2 weeks or so we should have a patio, and that should hopefully cure the problem of people saying that they've been walking by for several years but they had no idea that we had a brewery.
Right. Okay.
So hopefully we'll fix that. So
But this is like a San Diego tradition to have a brewing shop with brewery. I mean, this is how Ballast Point got started at Home Brew Mart. You guys do it. And I think from the outside, you look at that and think, oh, of course, it's a natural.
Yeah.
But is it really a natural, or is it like these two incredibly different things that are jammed together?
Yes and no. I think my perspective shifted over the past few years doing this, and I think when we to use that as an example, that trajectory went from 2012. We opened up the Home Brewer. People said, "Why don't you open up a brewery?" I said, "No, because I like brewing beer, so I don't want to open a brewery." And then
Wait. Do that again?
yeah.
I love brewing beer, so let's not brew beer.
Yeah, I'd say if you want to brew beer for a living, you shouldn't own a brewery. If you like paying taxes and dealing with permitting and fees and HR and payroll, then sure, own whatever business you want. But if you want to be in the brew house, it's pretty difficult to maintain all of those things, at least on a budget.
Okay.
And us being a very bootstrapping sort of endeavor, it's difficult to manage all of that stuff at once. So that perspective initially was, no, we don't really want to open a brewery. There's a lot of great people doing it here in San Diego. And then 3 years later, we felt like if we did open a brewery, we could showcase ingredients, we could use it to go hand in hand.
Sure.
And it would be a great way to say, well, here's this recipe for this beer that we brewed. Try it. Do you like it?
All right.
Here you go. And then we learned in the past 3 years that they do have to be separate, that they are slightly opposed. You're maybe not opposed, but if the market is thus and the early adopters are here, the brewing industry has moved into more of this just general crowd. Like, we have to target the general population. It's not just beer nerds that you're trying to get drink your beer. It's everybody. And I think in 2012 and 2001, it was just focused on the beer nerds. Now it's, no, you need to get like Aunt JoJo and Grandma and Brosif to come on down, enjoy the beer, give them a good experience. So that shift has focused where we've learned that running the homebrew store is a great revenue stream, but it's a different business model from running a brewery. And it's great to be able to talk back and forth and connect with things, but they don't have to connect for the consumer if the consumer doesn't want it to connect.
Yeah, that's a sentiment that we're hearing as we've been doing this for about a year and a half, in a sense, of which the market has shifted from, in the beginning of San Diego craft beer, it was driven by these amazing brewers who were making something that was different and unique, and people being wowed by an amazing alt beer or Schwartz beer. But now it's the opposite, in which It's the consumers are asking for certain things, so then the breweries have to follow along. Otherwise, they could suffer and fall to the wayside.
Yeah, and I really wonder too, because I agree with that. But then I just wonder, just as a process check, what was it really like for Greg Koch? Was he only convincing people about IPA, and there's so many things going on, or was he also just kind of building on this tradition of IPA and just kind of fit? I'm a historian by trade, so I love looking at things from so many, all the angles, all the layers, and somewhere in the middle is the truth.
Well, I think if you talk to Greg, he'll say, I mean, the first beer they came out with was the Pale Ale.
Yeah.
IPA was second, but I think the third beer was Arrogant Bastard. And so what he'll say, and you know, I guess it'll be up to the historians to determine the truth, but what he'll say is, we made what we wanted to make. We did not care what the public said. We had no focus groups. We had no advertising. We said, I like this beer, let's make this beer. And so they did, and that people followed along. I think there's a certain amount of truth to that.
Yeah.
I know when they came out with the IPA, it was a very hop-forward IPA at a time when those were unusual, right? And I don't think anyone could have foreseen that it would become the monster that it is, right? So, anyway. Yeah. But speaking of monsters, I mean, these are not monsters. I'm having Saison Chupont, and it's obviously modeled on Saison Dupont, the classic Belgian Saison. It's dry, it's got kind of medium light body, there's just a touch of pepper in it. It's super easy to drink, I think, especially when it's warm. Very refreshing beer, and I think it's a nice tribute to DuPont, which is one of the classic beers. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Cheers.
And what do you got?
I am drinking Positive Pils, which is essentially a smash beer, which stands for single malt, single hop. But it's showcasing a Pilsner malt from a small family farm and malting house up in Oregon called Mecca Grade, and also showcasing Mandarina Bavaria, which is one of the new German hop varietals. Yeah. Dry, refreshing, crisp. We love it.
Yeah. And I'm drinking the Sharks with Tasers, which is modeled after Sharks with Lasers, an IPA that's made here. It's nice and balanced, easy drinking, still has that hop bite, so kind of a perfect San Diego pale for days like this. So for you, how would you define what Home's beers are? Like, what do you think the thesis of your brewery is?
That's a tricky one. How do I... Well, our business model is to save the universe through homebrew. And
good luck.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Go on.
So for Home, first and foremost, it needs to just be a fantastic beer that anybody, regardless of their knowledge or prowess or beer nerdery, would just consider a nice, balanced, drinkable beer. Mm-hmm. So balanced, drinkable beer is our focus. From there, Home Brewing Co. has the sort of unique perspective as a homebrew store to also try to turn people on to new styles or just styles that may be forgotten. So if we have 21 taps, for instance, we figure no matter what we do, if we have one IPA or 20 IPAs, IPA will be 40% of our sales.
Right.
So let's just have a couple of IPAs, and then let's brew all the other stuff we want to drink all the time, like Pilsners and Wit and Saison and on and on. So I guess to bring it back to the question, to attempt to, I'm just buying time.
That's okay.
I'm just stalling.
Keep going, George. It's all good.
My answer would be just to brew fantastic beer and to share it with people. Mm-hmm. That's it.
But when you say fantastic beer, I mean, I think probably every brewer would say that, right?
Yeah.
Well, my beers are fantastic. But you talked also about focused beers, right?
Yeah.
Beers that are pretty much within style. Is that what you're saying when you say focused? Or do you mean they have a distinct personality, right?
I would say that we like brewing within style, although sometimes that's viewed as like a pejorative oh, they just brewed a style. They're just really boring. Right. And I think people misconstrue what that means really. So we're inspired by the classics. However, there's no way that we, even like just by the virtue of waking up and brewing a beer, we've put our stamp on it. And for us, our stamp is always focused on balance, drinkability, and then maybe food worthiness as like a third sort of leg to the stool.
Right.
And then whatever interests us. So we do come from a background of home brewing, so we like to brew whatever the hell we feel like brewing.
Okay.
But we want to do it well, and we want to pay homage to it, but there's always going to be our twist on it. Whatever that twist is, I think it just depends on the beer. And we have conversations about writing a recipe. It usually starts with, what are you doing when you're drinking that beer? And what are you experiencing? And then how does the malt help you get there? How do the hops help you get there? And what's the profile that way? So I guess to take one more stab, we brew beer for home.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm writing hashtags.
That sounds like something that you'd have over the door, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're now home. Home sweet home. Great. So you came to this from what? What were you doing before you were a home brew shop proprietor?
Slave.
Yeah.
I was working on my master's in history at San Diego State and finishing up my thesis. I've been homebrewing since I was 19, so that hobby kind of just carried on through college. But I noticed that the closer my thesis deadline got, the more I just wanted to brew at home. So I was spending a lot of time at homebrew stores, a lot of time reading, and I was working at a homebrew store at the time that ended up closing its doors.
Oh.
And it closed the day basically that myself and the other gentleman just decided, you know what, this isn't working out. And since it closed so quickly, I thought, well, I'm really enjoying the logistical side of things, ordering supplies and making sure they're in stock and figuring all of that out. And I love sitting around talking to people about beer and helping them do it. So how about we open up our own store?
Right.
And that was basically it. Naively just diving right into it, which I think is required. A sense of naivete in order to do that. But.
Now your concentration in the history major was not on beer.
No, it was not on beer.
It wasn't the history of beer.
No, it was religion and media. And
well, there's some relationship there.
Yeah, there's relationships there. Yeah. It's paid off. I get to teach at SDSU now.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so it works. Yeah.
All right.
So is there any events or things going on at the homebrew that you want to let people know about?
Yeah. When do you guys post this?
This afternoon.
This afternoon. So
sure.
So Friday, August 3rd, which is tomorrow, we are doing a can release with our friends at 32 North.
Oh.
And we're also having our friends who have started a Filipino food pop-up kitchen. So we have Filipino food in cans. It's a red hoppy saison with ginger, kisses, fruit, and more kisses.
Wow.
And these are the affectionate type of kisses.
You mean the chocolate kisses?
No, the affectionate kind.
Just lots of kisses.
Just lots of kisses.
Wow.
And
okay.
yeah,
That's...
the big one for next month would be our anniversary. So our anniversary and hopefully patio unveiling party will be the last Friday of August, and it'll also be the day we're releasing Chuck Alex collaboration in cans. So it'll be a bit of a bittersweet celebration there, but we're glad that we'll be the kind of final hurrah with them.
All right.
And,
Well, that's pretty sad. I mean, we talked last week about Intergalactic closing. We talked the week before about Chuck Alex closing. And I was going over some stats, and it was all in all, I think the craft beer segment grew between 2016 and 17, but the growth was extremely uneven, spotty. Not everyone shared in it. A lot of breweries had big losses. So, I mean, what do you see happening in the industry? Because you have your foot in two parts of it.
Yeah. It's a big question.
Yeah.
I think no one ever knows, and no one will ever know until it's already happened. But I think part of it goes back to what we talked about earlier of realizing that our job isn't just to brew beer for some nerds who homebrew, and I use the word nerd with a lot of affection,
right?
By the way,
because we're the nerds you're talking about.
Exactly. It's really trying to be flexible and build, that third space term has been coming up a lot. Actually, I wrote a paper on the concept of third spaces.
Right.
But so as far as where the industry is going, I do think a lot of it has to do with marketing, for better or for worse. I think people complain about like marketing is an evil thing, that on and on. But I just think it's just a way of telling your story, and that's challenging. And I'm not one who likes to do that a lot. But I really don't know. I do think it's more geared towards just giving people a good time and a good experience with what they're doing. In the homebrew world, for the past several years at our industry meetings, it's shifted from, our job isn't really to teach people how to brew, it's more to explain why you should brew at home, because there's just so much good beer around.
Yeah.
And it takes time, and people are so consumed with other things in their lives that you just have to convince them that, you should spend time doing this. And I think breweries have that same problem. It's not how do you get to, or how do you find all these breweries? That used to be the problem. It's, well, why should you come here today and spend your time? And I think the answer is just building a sense of community. So if the future holds anything, I think it might just be breweries just have to focus, just like every other business has to focus on, where do you fit within the fabric of your community, and how do you share that part as well?
Yeah,
how do you do that? I don't know.
It seems like breweries that have a defined mission or identity are doing a lot better than those that are kind of just, we have beer.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to associate like a type of person or a type of idea with something, it kind of creates a sense of community in a stronger way than just, oh, there's beer.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, but that's a tricky thing to do,
It's
I
hard.
think. And actually, it's no guarantee either, because Intergalactic really had that strong kind of sci-fi, Star Wars kind of vibe to it, and they really played up that. And I know they had like lightsaber competitions there.
Yeah,
it was a fun place.
Yeah.
But that didn't work.
And Chuck Alec had the really cool kind of historic styles and kind of homage to the past theme, and for whatever
which is
reason.
very similar to Epic, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of their vibe. So we'll see. I mean, I hope they all do well.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that home, that part of your mission was to save the world one beer at a time, and I know you were kind of kidding, but maybe kind of not. So where does that come in?
So the statement is to save the universe through homebrew. And on the home brewing co side, it's to save the universe through craft beer. So the idea there is, it's totally preposterous to think that you could ever save the universe through homebrew or craft beer or any of that. However, so if the forest is too big and you kind of zoom back in a little bit at what can I do today? Well, I guess if I help engage somebody in a really cool hobby, or I help even just pour someone a nice pint and ask how their day was going, or and everything in between there as far as education and whatnot, then we're doing our little part to hopefully improve their day. And that's how we can actually save the universe, is by just focusing on keeping it simple, keep it lighthearted, engage with the people around us, make sure they have a good experience, and then we may actually be saving the universe through homebrew.
Or at least giving people a good experience. Right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's I guess it's a reminder to take what we do seriously, but not take ourselves too seriously.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I feel like that captures the spirit of why people brew or do any kind of creative hobby, in a sense. It's a way to relax, it's a way to be different, it's a way to express yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's stimulating.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so we've got that coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've got the can release, and you mentioned it was a red, spicy, and very affectionate saison.
Yes, very affectionate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else happening this weekend that we want to talk about? Anything you might be going to? Daniel, you got anything on your agenda?
Seems like it's a quiet beer weekend, if those can happen. But
Yeah,
I guess everyone's brewing for a GABF or
Yeah.
getting ready for those kind of things. But we're entering anniversary season of a lot of the older breweries. We were speaking earlier about the anniversaries of Coronado and Stone and AleSmith. We're in that period of time where those big celebrations are going on, so you might be seeing some anniversary beers here and there.
Yeah, which is kind of fun, to pick those up and try them out. Sometimes an anniversary beer will enter into the, to the regular rotation.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't. You kind of wish they did.
Yeah.
There was an English style IPA that Stone issued one year. I think their 17th anniversary, which I still remember. It's like, oh man, I wish.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
I can plug a competing
please.
event.
Yeah, do.
So also tomorrow, Friday, at Savage Wood Brewing Company, they're releasing a collaboration they did with Brian Beagle of Sore Eye Suds and other podcast fame. And that should be a fantastic beer. It's competing with ours. I wish I could go to that. I wish they can come to ours. But if you're in that area and you can't make it down to North Park, then make sure you go to Savage Wood tomorrow, Friday.
Yeah, and also I almost forgot, but the Sore Eye Cup is happening on Saturday, which is the half crowd sorts, half professionally judged beer competition where Brian Beagle, formerly of SD Beer Talk, who puts together a list of great San Diego beers. These 10 finalists then compete, and then they're then judged, and then ultimately the judges decide which one is best, and they get to drink out of this giant cup.
It's really fun. That's an Ugly Dog, right?
Yeah, Ugly Dog in Livista?
It's El Cajon.
El
That
Cajon,
way.
yeah.
We're pointing at El Cajon Boulevard.
Yeah.
that way.
Right.
Just all the way
You
that
can't
way.
really tell, but it's back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, be sure and come by here at Home Brewer and Home
Brewing Co.
Brewing Co.
Very confusing for the kids.
No, that's all right.
It's a lot of H's there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little complexity, about as much complexity as I can handle on a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's great to be here, and thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You bet. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.